On today's Halloween episode, I wanted to do something a little different. We will be talking about the death of a young woman in 1845 and the surprising legal defense used by her accused murderer's team of lawyers that was the first of its kind in American legal history. I'm Jay, and this is Somnilopod. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I miss you all for a couple of weeks. I apologize. I got COVID, so I was a little unable to talk and and to do some work. So I apologize. But we're back today with something that I think will be a little bit interesting for you. I wanted to, as I mentioned in the teaser, to talk about the very first American legal case that involved sleepwalking in American legal history. Now, it's going to be more of a story as opposed to just relaying information from study results. But in 1840, Mary Ann Dunn, sometimes called Maria, and Mr. James Bickford, a shoemaker, were married when Mary was just 17 years old. So naturally, she went to live with him in his home in Bangor, Maine. Now, they were not wealthy people, but they were able to get by. And after the death of their first infant child, members of the family, in an attempt to console Mary, invited her to travel with them to Boston for a change of scenery. Mary was immediately in love with the allure of the big city. After returning home, her husband James reported that she had developed a dissatisfaction with her humble condition, and Mary returned to the city for good this time. After some time, James traveled to Boston to find Mary working in a house of ill repute. He returned home to Maine without her. Now, Miss Bickford moved from brothel to brothel, apparently enjoying the freedom and independence that life as a sex worker allowed. She eventually met a young, wealthy, married father of two, Mr. Albert Terrell. And after leaving but not divorcing his wife, Albert and Mary often traveled together as husband and wife, changing their names to hide their identities. All reports of their relationship were that it was volatile. Miss Bickford explained to a fellow boarder that she enjoyed quarreling with Terrell because, quote, they had such a good time making up. In late September 1845, Albert Terrell was indicted on charges of adultery, of which the press described as some, quote, indelicacies with a young woman. He evaded arrest but was ultimately captured. He was able to post bond and immediately went back to Miss Bickford. Now, around 4:30 a.m. on October 27th, 1845, Miss Bickford's body was found in a disreputable boarding house on Cedar Lane in Boston's Beacon Hill neighborhood. She was found in her nightgown with a 6-inch wound across her neck that nearly decapitated her. The bed in which she was found had been set on fire, and there was a blood-stained razor found at its foot. Her skin and hair were charred, and part of one ear was split open and missing an earring. There was also a man's vest and cane in the room, both splattered with blood. The victim had been seen earlier in the evening in the company of one Albert Terrell. At this point, however, Mr. Terrell was nowhere to be found. A witness reported that he had been seen bargaining with a livery stable keeper for a horse. He reported that he was in a scrape and needed to get away. The following day, with the financial assistance of relatives that lived south of Boston in Weymouth, he made his way to Canada. He contacted his family by mail from Montreal. He informed them of his plans to sail to Liverpool. Luck, however, wasn't with Mr. Terrell, as the weather forced his ship to turn back. He then boarded a ship bound for New Orleans. Lady Luck continued to ignore Mr. Terrell, as the Louisiana authorities had received a tip that he was on his way there. They arrested Mr. Terrell on December the 5th as he was trying to make his way to Mexico. Now, Mr. Terrell retained the services of a former U.S. Senator from Massachusetts, Mr. Rufus Choate. Mr. Choate was also a former protege of Daniel Webster and was known for being an elegant and aggressive orator. Mr. Choate developed an unheard of, as yet untried legal strategy to explain the murder: sleepwalking. Mr. Terrell was a somnambulist, a sleepwalker, and Choate planned to use the defense to get his client acquitted of murder. During the trial, Mr. Choate impugned the character of Miss Bickford as a lurid and evil temptress who should have died for taking the virtuous Albert away from his wife and children, and provided testimony that the wound that was inflicted could have been self-inflicted. Witnesses from Mr. Terrell's family and friends were also brought forward to describe numerous episodes of strange nighttime behavior on the part of the defendant, starting from around the age of 10. From pulling down curtains and smashing windows to pulling a cousin out of bed and threatening him with a knife, story after story was compiled. The dean of the Harvard Medical School at the time, Walter Channing, was even brought as a witness for the defense. He stated that it was conceivable that a person in a somnambulistic state could commit murder and have no recollection of the event. After Mr. Choate's lengthy 6-hour closing argument, the jury deliberated for just 2 hours. On March 30th, 1846, they returned a verdict of not guilty. Interestingly, the same insanity of sleep defense was used successfully in Mr. Terrell's follow-up trial for arson because he had set Miss Bickford's bed on fire. Now, to date, there have been 68 cases of sleepwalking murder that have reached a courtroom. So what are your thoughts? Is this something that you have thought about in the past, seen stories about? I know I certainly have. It's a field of sleep medicine that is actually called forensic sleep medicine. And interestingly, it is something that is, as that Walter Channing from the Harvard Medical School said, it is conceivable that a person can, in a sleepwalking state, commit murder. There have been a handful of acquittals of those 68 cases of sleepwalking. So what are your thoughts? Send me some messages. Let me know what you're thinking. You can reach me at j@somnilopod.com. You can also reach out to me through any of the social medias, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. I hope this has been enjoyable for you, and it was interesting for me to do the research. This is not really something that I had done a lot of research about in the past, so I'll probably end up doing a follow-up episode on forensic sleep medicine, which will help us dive a little bit deeper into some of the workings of how this can be possible. So until we talk again, please remember to make sleep a priority. Thanks so much.